When the glass breaks, we talk Vols with our friend Austin Price of VolQuest and On 3 on the eve of National Signing Day and a Tennessee team that is dancing in the college football playoff. Ramon Foster, Kayla Anderson, Will Bowling, Austin Price, who was in our lovely city this weekend as Tennessee beat Vanderbilt 36-23. Austin, what's up? How are you, sir?
Just trying to figure out if you're man enough there, Will Bowling.
Oh, there have been a lot of people trying to figure that out for a long time. Austin, Tennessee was man enough for the moment against Vanderbilt on Saturday, despite not looking up to the challenge early. What stood out as your biggest positive from the win on Saturday?
Just how Tennessee responded. I mean, the first 5 minutes of that football game were a train wreck of epic proportions, and Tennessee didn't panic. You got a veteran group of linemen and veteran group of skilled guys that just didn't flinch, and they said, okay, let's go to work. Let's go back and let's get it back. And, all of a sudden they had a 24-17 lead at halftime, and Tennessee did what they needed to do in the second half and, just, I guess, persevered. Some teams probably would have laid down with that start or made it more difficult. Tennessee just didn't blink, and, they won the game, rather convincingly.
Also, we talked about it the other day that it felt like Nico Iamaleava may have had one of his worst throws as a Vol on his interception, but overall may have also played one of his best games from start to finish on Saturday. What has clicked for him to allow him to improve so much down the stretch? Is there one or two things you kind of point to, or is it just kind of overall consistency at this point?
I think it's just getting better, getting more reps, playing more games, just the more you play, the better you're going to be, and the more game action you see, the more comfortable you're going to be. And I just think that it just boils down to he's starting to play more, and all that is the end result is him playing a lot better. And I think that if he can give them anything similar to what he's given them the last month in the college football playoff, Tennessee will have a real shot. If Tennessee's defense continues to play it the way it has all year, and Tennessee's able to run the ball like it has all year.
Austin Price with us this morning, VolQuest and On 3. Also, when you look back at this past weekend against Vanderbilt, legitimately a lot of emotions. Clark Lee, man, hats off to him, man. He's got that program going in the right direction. They punched the Vols in the mouth, man. How much of Josh Heupel's conversation was about checking their emotions? Because for a second there, John Campbell lost it for a little bit, and I think towards the latter part of the game, you saw the physicality show up in a major way for the Vols, too.
Yeah, I think Tennessee's depth really shined through. I thought Vanderbilt, most of the second half, they were struggling to make it play-to-play. Tennessee did a fantastic job of keeping Diego Pavia in check. He was really neutralized pretty badly. I thought Tennessee's defense, what Tim Banks and them did was really impressive. But yeah, I think for Josh Heupel, the message is just kind of keep doing what we've been doing all year, and that's playing defense, running the football, and just playing with an edge about them. And Tennessee's done a nice job of that. I mean, the only game where Tennessee just struggled to do that was at Arkansas. Even at Georgia, I thought Tennessee played with an edge. Georgia just played better that night, and Tennessee's defense was, left ineffective, so to speak, against Georgia's offensive line. But, Tennessee just has to continue to play tough, play gritty, and, we'll see if they're at home or away for the CFP.
Signing day right across, right? I mean, a couple days away in 24 hours or so, right? What does this do, Austin, getting into the playoffs, 10-win season again, beating two of your three rivals, as I like to say, of the Florida Georgias and Alabama? Does this put Tennessee up, higher in maybe tier one? I don't know what tier they are. Is it high tier 2 or low tier 1, or they move towards the middle? What does this do for the Vols?
Well, overall as a program, I think it just continues the upward trajectory. This is 2 out of 3 years. You've gotten to double-digit wins in the regular season, and that's not happened around here in such a long time. And, you were playing. That tells you how you need to know. You played a decade in the NFL and have been doing radio for a few years now. So it's been a while. And, so I think for Tennessee, you just want to continue to progress. The portal's getting ready to open up. There's going to be change. I said on the message board this morning, I think every player on your roster, every player doesn't matter who it is, susceptible to, a transfer. Like I think that goes across college football. I mean, you just never know, what's going on behind the scenes, who's involved, who's offering $2,000 more and somebody's willing to take it. I mean, it's that weird time in college football, and that's why if you're a fan, you love the current team you have, and then you understand at the end of the year, it could look a lot different for everybody, good and bad. And so I think, for Tennessee, it's just about, figuring out where they need to go from here, continuing to build off of the success they've had, and understanding that, to quote, Kobe Bryant, job's not finished. You've got games left, and, depending on your draw, depending on the matchups, I mean, Tennessee could be sitting there, even further down the line playing for something even more. Again, job's not finished, got to continue to progress, but this is another building block for Josh Heupel and for Tennessee football as a program.
Austin Price of VolQuest joining us now on Arcade Dub. When it comes to some of the moves that we'll make with transferring in and out, I know probably Tennessee fans have been waiting for this, but to see Mike Matthews get involved this past weekend, maybe what do you feel like the latest on him is? Do you feel like he's going to stay or go somewhere else?
Well, I mean, there's no reason to think he would go anywhere else. I mean, he's a freshman. Everybody gets, everybody comes in thinking they're going to play. Some play more than others. Some don't. I think, I think everything's fine with Mike. Again, you never truly know, Kayla. Mm-hmm. I mean, who's to say that everything's fine with, Oregon's best player, Ohio State's best player, or Tennessee's best player. You just never know behind the scenes. But it certainly feels like, he started to get more playing time. And obviously the results Saturday were there for him with a few catches and a touchdown. And, a guy like Braylon Staley, who hasn't played this year, same thing. I think he's in a good spot too, ready to, see how this season finishes out. And you got to remember too, some of those players like a Braylon Staley or, anybody that hasn't played a ton, it doesn't count against their redshirt season now in the CFP. So, you never know who may get a little bit more run potentially, just to help with depth at certain spots now that we get into the college football playoff.
So some of the guys that did transfer in here last year, you got a lot of production out of up to this point. You speak of Jermod McCoy, Miles Kitselman, just to name a couple of them. How much do you feel like Josh Heupel has felt comfortable in terms of identifying what he exactly needs in the portal? And I know it's not always going to hit, but I feel like he has kind of put down the formula of what they're going for and finding that right fit.
Yeah, I think for him, it's continue to recruit the high school ranks, continue to bring in players and develop them there, and then cherry pick and sprinkle in key players in the portal. Kitselman's a perfect example. And again, when they took Holden Stays and then they took Miles Kitselman, everybody thought, okay, this guy's just a depth piece, didn't really do anything at Alabama. Then in spring you started to hear, this guy can really play, this guy can really go. You talk to more coaches and, even in fall camp, a lot of fans on our site and other places were like, that's just all fodder. No, I mean, they were talking about him the same way they were talking about Jalen Wright before last year. Just different position, but the ability to really help the football team. Jermod McCoy, Lance Hurd's playing some of his better football in the month of November. So, I mean, Tennessee's done a nice job of, adding from the portal and getting those portal players to give them quite a bit of production.
Austin Price of VolQuest on 3, our guest this morning on Ramon, Kayla, and Will. Austin, David Sanders, top commit, cornerstone of the class, doesn't visit Ohio State for their loss to Michigan, so he would not have been in the shrapnel of the pepper spray that was displayed on Saturday. Is it fair to say Tennessee has survived this push at this point and is in a good position for David Sanders?
Yeah, it certainly feels that way, Will. It really does. It certainly feels like Tennessee has survived the last-minute push here from the Buckeyes, and feels like, Tennessee should get good news tomorrow morning with David Sanders. So, yeah, this is a situation where it dates back to before he committed the first time, or the only time, before he committed in August. I was kind of just ready for it to be over. and then we get another run of it, and I'm just ready for tomorrow.
I mean, it's the new equivalent, Austin, of Tony Vitello contract extension, of Chaz Lanier when that recruitment was going on. There's always something.
Is J.J. Peterson going to show up for class?
J.J. Peterson. Oh, my goodness. I've not thought of that name in a long time. Austin, though, you do get a decommitment. Tennessee does from Shady Hayward. Florida in the mix there. Georgia has always been pushing there. And then Onis Konanbani, 4-star, 3-star defensive back, goes and visits Florida. Not an early enrollee, so kind of a different situation there. How surprised are you just with the push Florida has made, particularly with Shady Hayward, a guy that was tweeting a couple weeks ago, I'm not flipping?
Yeah, I mean, obviously not a great look, when you go that hard on social media. It's I'm not surprised. I mean, Florida has been in flux, for months, and so they didn't. I mean, most of their class just got blown to pieces, and now that they've decided to stick with Billy, and he's done a fantastic job down there keeping that team together. They've decided to throw a bunch of NIL resources at the end of this class, and see if they can swing some momentum. And they've obviously done that. Flipped a kid from Texas, flipped a kid from Miami. Potentially could flip a couple from Tennessee, and so. They're obviously trying to, go big, here at the end of this class and see what happens. I think it's just as important for them to go big in the portal, though, because at the end of the day, you can't count on 25 high school kids to flip it around and continue the trajectory next year just because most freshmen aren't ready to play. Some are, most aren't. And so, for Tennessee, if those guys like to go elsewhere, and obviously Shady's already decommitted, but if they like to go elsewhere, then you just move on and go see what you can find in the portal.
Austin, that's not also the only moving parts, man. This is also the time of year where a lot of fires have been happening, man. North Carolina, I mean, there's a lot of coaches that have left head coaching positions to go be offensive coordinators at Florida State. You just never know what's going to happen. What is Heupel's staff also looking like going into this next year? Tim Banks has to be a part of the discussion right now, just on the basis of what the defense has done.
Yeah, absolutely. Coach Heupel, every year he's been here has basically had a coaching change. Even if it was small, like a Cody Burns leaving after year one, then Alex Golish after year two. So I mean, like you have some change here and there, like Brian Jean-Marie last year, or Jerry Mack, who's now the new head coach at Kennesaw State. Congrats to him. Mm-hmm. But you're bound to have some change. And the question is Tim Banks going to be in that? If Tim Banks can get a head job, Ramon, he's going to take it, in my opinion, unless it's just like such a step down that it makes no sense. So, we'll see where things go from there. But, I mean, Mike Eckler's on an expiring contract. Willie Martinez is on an expiring contract. Do they get new deals, or do they, does Coach Heupel like to go in a different direction? I don't know. We'll see. Again, anytime you're on an expiring deal, and Tim Banks would be on one of those too, you have to wonder. But you also, have to think, like, does somebody come after somebody that's, maybe a young up-and-comer like a Kelsey Pope? All those things could happen, or they could have the same staff in next year. I think we'll find out. But I think if history tells us anything, it's that you'll see some type of change on the staff.
Absolutely.
Austin Price of VolQuest joining us on Arcade Dub. So the college football playoff committee will put out its rankings tonight. Austin, where do you expect Ohio State to land? And we're already seeing a possible matchup with Ohio State. How do you feel like that would look?
Well, I think where they put them will be the telltale sign about where Tennessee, is either going to be at home or away. If Tennessee's at 8 and Ohio State's at 9, then Tennessee will host, because there's no way, in my opinion, for Tennessee to fall below the 8 spot, having no game this weekend. Now, if Tennessee's the 9, then I think that makes things much more difficult on Tennessee. They'll probably have to root for Texas to beat Georgia, and how far is Georgia going to drop at that spot? Because they talk about not punishing the championship game participants. But I mean, doesn't the loss have to account for something?
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm just kind of interested to kind of see where all this goes. But if I were a betting man, I'd bet that they'll have Ohio State 8 and Tennessee 9. But maybe that's just my pessimism and inability to see past a Big Ten heavy College Football Playoff Committee.
VolQuest Austin Price joins us Tuesdays here on RKW. Now as good a time as any to get a subscription to VolQuest. They got a $1 for 7 days deal going on with National Signing Day tomorrow. A must have for the Tennessee fan. Do it for yourself. Do it for a family member. Austin, we appreciate you as always, sir. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you.
Yes, sir.
Way to be manly, Austin.
VolQuest Austin Price with us this morning here on the show. Big opportunity for Tennessee. A couple of big targets they could flip, a couple that could flip back. It does feel like the intrigue of signing day might be back.
I hope so.
I feel like the days of like sitting on pins and needles to watch guys pick up hats kind of went by the wayside.
Oh, yeah.
It almost feels like the Bryce Underwood sweepstakes with LSU and Michigan gave us a little resurgence of like prime 2010 national signing.
You know why?
This is the good stuff.
2 words, baby. The bag.
That's right. Just all those negotiations are public now.
No, yeah, for
They
real.
used to be Bryce.
They used to.
Yeah.
I mean, what are we doing here?
I mean, just show up to the dorm room. There's a Hellcat right there.
Exactly.
Not anymore.
They should
man.
just hold up the bag of which school they're going to.
I
Just
mean,
which one's bigger.
that
McDonald's
would
bag,
actually be
Chick-fil-A bag, or
Yeah.
Wendy's.
Right?
What a time to be locked into it though, man. If you enjoy college football, like you're right, that surprise element is back again. I just don't know if I'd have been an early enrollee like that. I understand the jump start on it, but like, man, that second semester, I played around. Like I wanted to be just walking around the hallways with no hall pass and hey, going to prom. And I know they still come back for the prom and stuff, but like that also to that point what Austin just said, like ain't many freshmen ready to play. And this is like the earliest jump you can get to be ready for next fall.
I love our tweet. We tweeted out a GIF of Michael Scott shaking his head and talking about the caller that mentioned Brian Callahan isn't manly enough to be an NFL football coach. Stoney, our friend from Football and Other F Words, responded. One of my favorite follows on Twitter, by the way. Stoney gets after it. Says, Coach has 24 hours to post a video of him chopping wood to beat the allegations.
Oh, my goodness. That's hilarious.
What does Brian Callahan need to do to prove he's more manly? 615-737-1045.
Oh, my goodness.
We're kidding. That was a ridiculous call. I'm glad many of you agree. Coming up, a suspension for former Titan Aziz Al-Shire on the hit on Trevor Lawrence. We got Adam Schefter tweeting about it. Have you all seen this tweet?
I retweeted it.
Tweet?
Adam Schefter?
Just retweeted it.
I know. I was asking the whole room.
No,
Yeah. I was answering you.
I'm so out of it. No, what happened?
Well, you got mentioned.
Yeah,
I got
you're famous.
mentioned.
You did get mentioned.
No, I
famous.
didn't.
That's next.
Did I really?